just doing what you've always done, we're starting to see that show up as not successful anymore. You know what I mean? Like you have to evolve because there's evolution and revolution in growth spikes. I would argue revolution is more prominent than evolution just in the year 2026. So you better be ready to change.
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, where business owners learn to scale their profits and cash flow and work less doing it. You built your business to fulfill your dreams and serve your mission. You're the backbone of America, creating the jobs and opportunities that keep our economy moving. And for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified. It's the first baby step in a journey we take our clients on, building cash-rich, margin-strong businesses that don't suck the life out of you. Check out the first 13 episodes of the podcast. It's Mike Michalowicz and my review of each chapter of the Profit First book. Around here, we speak cash flow, profit, and practical execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. Most accountants, they might help you save on taxes, but they'll crush your cash flow and make you look unprofitable. That's not just a poor decision, it's a liability. We help you focus on what you love. And when we partner together, we become a profit center for your business. If we don't deliver a massive ROI on your investment in us, fire us. Want to see how it all works? Watch the video version on YouTube or head over to ProfitComesFirst.com to grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book and start making profit a habit. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back big. How's that tax prep going? Did you have any planning and strategy going into it? Just remember, we now help with that, because when you make lots of profit, you end up with lots of taxes unless you fix it. We've also got a new YouTube video that shows you exactly why more revenue equals less cash. I show you the exact math. Check it out. The link is in the show notes. Remember, work less, make more, have fun. Here's the stat that should scare every business owner. Most small businesses are leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table every single year, and they don't know why. Our guest is Chris Hallberg. He's seen this pattern thousands of times. So have I. He's the business sergeant, ranked number 9 on Inc. magazine's top 50 leadership experts. And he's made it his mission to show leaders exactly where they're bleeding money and how to stop it fast. Chris has helped billion-dollar contractors, national chains, and franchises achieve 30% plus profit on predictable systems. We're going to show you the biggest mistakes, why hiring the wrong people is costing you more than think, and how military veterans might just be your secret weapon. Let's meet Chris and see how it's done. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Chris Hallberg. It's great to have you join us today.
Great to be here, Rocky, on your program. Thanks for having me.
And I'm excited to learn from you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. Full-time, my JOB, if you call it that. I don't work a day because I love what I do. Expert EOS implementer. So I've been coaching leadership teams in the Entrepreneurial Operating System for a little over 12 years. And even a full practice is still a part-time job compared to the clients we serve and the hours that entrepreneurs and executives put in. So in my spare time, I'm the visionary of a business called Business Sergeant. That's my personal branding. It is a veteran-powered recruiting company. My business partner, Michael, is a special forces officer, has been out for about a year and a half, and we help special ops and regular vets like myself, I was an MP back in the day, find veteran-friendly companies. So we solve problems just through amazing leadership. And why wouldn't a company, want a leader that's had millions of dollars in education, in leadership, project management, team building, relationship building, all that kind of stuff? And then my other jam as a visionary, because I can't help myself, is I'm the president and founder of Go Expand, the latest EOS authorized software. And what makes Go Expand unique is does all the tool stuff. It's a bunch of people stuff. Turns out that's what companies are, a bunch of people, and an AI agent. So it's the latest and greatest technology to kind of glue your operating system together. People spend a bunch of time in there. So I'm doing 3 things right now, and focus. I know we can't talk about that, but the neat thing about being good at an operating system is understanding your strengths and weaknesses. So I have integrators, folks that are professionals who run both of those businesses, and of course I have to show up and do the coaching myself. So that's how I'm able to do all those things and still have a normal life and plenty of time for life's passions.
I love it. And I love the fact that you're not operating your businesses. You let other people operate the business. You do the parts you love. That's the way it is for me. That's how you end up with a life you love, because you don't do the things you don't enjoy. Someone else can do them, right? There's a book called Who Not How. Who can do this for me instead of me?
Dan Sullivan, right? It's exactly. Or a lot of times he'll say who not how, who not what, because the right who fixes the how and the what without any consternation. The wrong who creates all kinds of issues for you, the CEO, the visionary, we're supposed to be external, like doing stuff like this. This is a very visionary type thing. And if I'm doing TPS reports at the office, right, then who's out promoting the brands? So I'm allergic to TPS reports. So I'm very thankful that I'm here with you, Rocky, and I'm not stamping widgets on a line or doing reports.
Yeah, unfortunately, most business owners are allergic to the financials, which creates a whole nother problem that we'll get to. But before we get to that, you said something before we hit record, and you said you want to solve a problem, hire a Green Beret. What you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's the people we place, a lot of them are special operations, specifically Green Berets, because my integrator, Michael Crisilla, has only been out of the Special Forces for about 1.5 years. And he was a Chief Warrant Officer 3, highly technical expert, Green Berets, Silver Star, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, you name it. Michael's got all the t-shirts. And as we place these people with sometimes no business experience, they're just getting out of the military, the Special Forces community. And if you need a general manager, an East Coast logistics person, unless you're splitting atoms, we got nuclear fission, molecular biology, something going on at your company. Those types of humans can learn what you do at your business in a quarter or 2. Your best leader on their best day couldn't carry my guy's rucksack for an afternoon. So it's just like one of these things, we call it the halo effect. We drop one of those special humans that has been selected, 1 out of 1,000 again and again and again, and they just don't lose. They somehow, just like a cat, you flip them up and they land on their feet. They solve problems. They build relationships. We've already had helped with some turnarounds. I don't think we can do it. Well, hang on. Within a month, the halo effect, the people next to the Green Beret, then people next to them, negativity. And there's no yelling. It's not like a TV show where people are doing push-ups, in the conference room. Just this calm, I understand that's a problem, but it's not really a big problem. You want to hear what a big problem is? Story time. And then a minute later, this report not, being done, or these slides off, or the client thinking they want to fire us. Yeah, those are definitely an issue. But in the grand scheme of things, completely solvable. So it's just cool, calm, collected, resolute, intelligent, just warrior statesman. Just for those that don't know, getting that little funny green hat, it's 2 years of grueling training. And then, another couple of years to be, completely operational. And only 7% of the U.S. population, Rocky, has served in uniform. 7%. And of that, 3% are in special operations. So we're really talking about half of 1%. So it's pretty awesome. And they don't cost any more to find or hire or retain than a normal candidate. So it is just value up the wazoo. And that's why we have companies that are just like, how many can I have? Because it's just a game changer to have people. And they can learn finance and numbers. And even if they don't come from that world, part of the job in a special forces ODA or an A team is each Green Beret has a other assignment other than their specialty. And don't you know budgets, training calendars? Like I know they've got nice budgets over there, but when the money runs out, they got to do something else for training. So even elite soldiers have to understand their numbers.
What is it that makes them special? What is it, the secret sauce that makes them somewhat different, or what they bring to the organization different than someone else?
I would say their commitment is otherworldly. Think Olympic athlete, someone who fails again and again and again, but doesn't give up. They persevere. They find a way, the creativity. So not only physically do they have to be like near Olympic shape because of the work they do, extremely autonomous, behind enemy lines, linguistics, right? Every Green Beret has to learn a language. So not only do they speak in English, they're able to be versatile in another language. So I think like when you volunteer for the hardest job in the Army and then you're successful there and you become an instructor and you print other Green Berets, you're just a masterful problem solver, team builder. These guys take farmers and depose governments. Like that is not a small thing to do. Is, de oppresso liber, to free the oppressed is their motto. So like back to the business side, they don't quit. They're creative. They build relationships. They build alliances. And where we had maybe some bad pockets of culture, low accountability, they just lead by example. Rocky, I think, is really, they're well rehearsed and they show up every day as an example for others to follow.
And, there are a couple things in there that I heard that I think are very important that we take for granted. Accountability for yourself and holding other people accountable to what they said they would do. Solving problems, but also deciding what problem do I need to solve? Do I need to solve this one or this one? Because that one's minor. This one's major. I'm going to figure out which one is most important, right? Out of those. And I know we probably didn't talk about it, but creating systems and processes so that we just execute consistently on what we say we're going to do.
Yeah, their mastery of the basics is striking. So like the skill level 1 stuff in their sleep, and then they get into the 202, 303, level 4, level 5 skill sets. And to be able to go that deep on some topics and be a true subject matter expert, but it doesn't matter what your specialty is, whether it's weapons or being a medic or communications, they're all just warrior scholars, the school after school after school after school, never stop learning. So I would say hungry to gain and share knowledge is probably one of the secret ingredients.
It's funny. My kids went to a classical school. And so in a classical school, you're not taught what to think. You're taught how to think. You're taught how to learn. So they teach you how to learn so that no matter what the subject is, you have a process to learn how to learn that subject, because it's all the same. It's understand the language and the grammar of the problem, understand these different things, and then you can quickly learn and go forward with it. So what about the rest of these business owners who can't find a Green Beret? What do they do?
Well, I mean, you could just hire a regular veteran like myself. Remember, we're the more populated one with 7% of the population. So now, granted, the Special Forces guys are amazing and everybody knows it. And if you've ever been in the military and you see one of those unicorns in the wild, it's a bit of a rock star moment because they're kind of like the NFL players of the Army. Now, for the rest of us, right, playing beer league, D3, all the way up to D1 sports, there's not too many roster spots in the NFL, right? So like even world-class athletes, there's no path to that. So we get back to U.S. veterans. Now we're talking Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. And the neat thing about the big military, the MOS, or the military occupational specialties. So, I was an MP, then I was a civilian law enforcement officer. So I learned, right, negotiations, rolling around in the dirt with people, right? Dealing, enforcing laws, deciding discernment. Is this a good one or is this a bad one? So it doesn't really matter what you did in the military. Anyone who had any sort of a 3, 5, 10, 20-year experience, already proven to be in a complex environment. A lot of it's just figure it out. People don't understand the military, even with all of its rules and acronyms and books. There is a fair amount of, well, no one's going to figure it out for you, so you better go do it. So I think it's being comfortable with stress and chaos and providing a calm hand and a clear voice in turbulent times. And veterans are just as, usually as cool as the other side of the pillow, where sometimes folks don't handle stress well in a work environment. So when you have somebody that spent years in stressful situations, back to that same advice I gave with the spec ops people, they've been in much more difficult situations than this one. We're going to be okay. So that steady hand, great problem solving, wonderful communication, really learning how to manage up is something else you learn in the military, because not all your leaders are world-class leaders. And in the military, you can't just transfer. You can't just quit. You're signing up for a number of years. So you will be subjected to world-class leadership, and you will be subjected to apocalyptically bad leadership. Either way, you got to figure it out and take care of the people beneath you and get there back and safe with a successful mission. So that's something they're not teaching in junior high and high school these days. So if we fully understand that the young people coming out of school today, maybe not as hardy and robust, let's just say, as a couple generations ago, I think that's pretty well known. Until the robots completely take over, veterans become more and more valuable as they continue to produce soft, unaccountable humans at scale.
So you work with a lot of business owners. What are some of the biggest issues you see, especially as it goes towards driving profit and cash flow inside their business?
Yeah, discipline once again. So yes, the word yes, let's go do that. Yes is an opportunity thing. Yes happens usually in marketing and sales. Operations, those are the no's. Yeah, we can't do that. We got to follow process. Yeah, I can't send that without a signed contract. Ooh, need a waiver on that. Probably good. We don't go do dangerous things until the insurance is procured and we have the documentation. So the chief operating officer in EOS terms, the integrator, in normal terms, the number two. The number one, the visionary like us, right? Usually come from sales and marketing, big ideas, shaking hands, kissing babies. We don't write any speeding tickets. We have an empty book of warnings. Now slow down. Whereas the number two in the military, they call it the XO, or the executive officer versus the CEO, the commanding officer. So the CEO is definitely in charge, but the CEO is dealing with hire. They're dealing with other units. Think more culture, strategy, direction. Then we get into execution. That's the XO, the number two, the president, the chief operating officer. Those folks, well-timed no's are what protect our EBITDA, our profit. If we have a yes person in that seat, we're going to have high revenue and low profit. If we have the right yes people in sales and marketing and the CEO, we're going to have a lot of opportunity. Then we have the right no person, as I like to jest, because the CFO and the COO are very good at no. The best ones are able to tell you no in the nicest possible way. But at the same time, if we say yes to all the opportunities, should we sign up for this? Should we go there? Should we spend this on ads? All the yeses that people want from those people all have a good story. But if you say yes to all of them, there won't be any money left for us to bonus and, put back into the business and return back to the stakeholders. So it's really a delicate dance, and not having the right strategic no person causes high sales, low revenue versus high sales and high profit.
I like to say no, but usually I say no because the math says no. And I don't even have to say no. What I do is I just show them the math. If you do this, it says you're only going to make this kind of money, and this is how much work it's going to take. And they're like, oh, that's not worth it. I'm like, okay, I didn't have to say anything, right? The problem is most people don't do the math. And so they don't even know what the expected outcome is. They just have a good gut feeling that it's going to be wonderful. And those yes people, they have grandiose plans until you actually put numbers to them. And then it becomes easier. It's like, oh, we're going to bomb 20 targets. How many bombs do you have? 10. Explain to me how you're going to do that with 10, because that doesn't make sense to me. And so then they're like, oh, okay. Now we have to do things differently.
Yeah, what are the 10 targets that provide a 20 target outcome, right? Like,
right.
What are some +2 targets? Can we find 10 of those? Because, you could solve that equation. But at the end of the day, the yeses are usually have a lot of passion and conviction behind them. There's always a huge amount of revenue down the road. So we're not going to make any money on this one. It's the old joke in business. We're going to lose money on every sale, but we're going to make it up in volume. Like, that's the joke. I hear that. So I'll say that in sessions sometimes, like, hey, you ever heard this one? Like, what are we going to say no to? So it's a discipline and it's a process. So like when I hear you say that, Rocky, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how you do it. You don't say, wow, that's a dumb idea, right? Because then you're going to stop getting ideas. You give a little financial literacy, right? All right, let's break your idea down. Let's put it through my filter. Even better than that, that's the first time that happens. Love how you handled that. My advice would be to create a spreadsheet, a tool, a calculator, the Rockies go or no go matrix. I'll just call it right now. That's what I would call it in the session. And I'd say, okay, let's go to the Rocky go no go matrix and let's plug in your inputs. And the spreadsheet says no, almost no, hell no. Like, I'd like to see a range on the no, kind of no, or, capital, whatever letter no. That way we're also teaching. They're not just understanding what would Rocky do, but if you give them a tool and it's steeped in your logic, that is something that you can do to make sure that your thinking moves out through the organization. So like your thought process, it's brilliant. You have it. It's steeped in all this experience. And quite frankly, we learn how to say no by saying yes to the wrong things. So because of your position, your time and grade, your experience, that counsel is super valuable. So take that formula, and what you're saying is a formula that and give it to other people. That's how we scale the right yeses and nos in a business, with a tool.
So great news. Just yesterday, with the help of AI, we actually put the calculator on the website. So you can actually run it for any business. So we'll make sure to put the link in here. And then our free book tells you how to use the calculator along with a whole bunch of other stuff. So the link's already in there for that. The key to the whole thing is you have to have a realistic expectation, because I can make the calculator say anything I want, which is why I've always been hesitant to just give it to people, because they'll just make stuff up. It's like, is that realistic? How do you know that's true? And how do you know that's not just your gut feeling that that's what it is? And that's the problem is that thing. I don't know if you deal with a lot of the trades, but one of the things we like for them to do is, okay, you just quoted a bathroom or a kitchen or whatever your project was. Let's compare your quote to what actually happened. Like, I know in the military, they do this, right? Post-engagement, they're going to sit down and review, this is what we planned, this is what happened, where were we right, wrong? When you start to do that, you start to get better and better at quoting. You start to see where you're missing stuff, and you get better at it. So that's kind of the key. It takes some wisdom, and that, I don't know what to tell them.
Well, I mean, the gray hairs, the scars, they're all earned, every one of them. So that's the benefit of having some senior folks with experience, is to transfer that tribal knowledge before you retire, because that's your greatest gift to the newest generation, is to give them the perspective of a seasoned one. So what you're referring to, Rocky, is an AAR, an after action review. Like, what was supposed to happen? What actually happened? What was the gap? What did we learn? What are we going to do different from next time? And every time the military does anything, there is an after action review, especially when you're cold, wet, tired, it's time to go home. Oh, end up, nope, it's time for the AAR. Woo! So then you have to muster up that and understand that learning doesn't really happen in the classroom and happens in those after action reviews because it's a practical real world scenario. And the neat thing is, all right, we got that wrong. We're going to do it again tomorrow. Guess what we're not going to do? So then you get online and everyone's mindful to make the corrections from yesterday. And don't you know, we get a little bit better. And then we go until we have a flawless operation. Then we can go pick up a dictator in his bed, when we want to, because that, the Maduro operation was rehearsed for like 3 or 4 months every day. Delta Force, tier 1. Like when you're good at the special forces for a bunch of years, then you try out for like Delta, a special missions unit. So the amount of rehearsal in that operation, staggering. Hundreds of aircraft, backwards planning for everyone involved. I bet you they might have practiced, that operation 100 times before they had to do it for real.
How often do you see business owners put that much effort into what they're doing?
Almost never. The short answer. At the end of the day, like you get good at what you're good at, but the world we live in with the modern complexities of AI and human behavior and stuff, just doing what you've always done, we're starting to see that show up as not successful anymore. You know what I mean? Like you have to evolve because there's evolution and revolution in growth spikes. I would argue revolution is more prominent than evolution just in the year 2026. So you better be ready to change.
And you know what? That may be something most business owners aren't ready for, is things that were highly stable may not be stable going forward. If you look at, people thought government contracts were stable. They are no longer stable. There's been dramatic shifts in that whole world. And I think it's going to come to every part of business. AI, like you said, is upending a lot of things. I don't know that it's the solution. I think people are getting it wrong in the sense of, I think AI can boost productivity. I think AI can help with a lot of routine stuff, but some people are making it sound like AI is going to run your entire company, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's a great thought partner. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, it depends what you do. So just as a recent experience, the recruiting process, like there are some roles, like we have an AI agent for outreach. We have an AI thing for selection, like for the sales side, for the candidate side, for the interview side. Now we still have humans running this, but instead of clicking this and clicking this, the repetitive tasks, okay, so we've built the workflows. We've trained the voice in our own voice. It sounds like us because when it says something AI like, we're like, never say that again. You sound like a cheap AI bot. This is the tone. This is the voice. This is who you are. Okay, thank you. So it's one of these things, repetitive tasks. AI is better than the humans. They don't call in sick. They don't get it wrong. Now, if we're going to talk about building relationships or the power of discernment, please don't put an AI agent in charge of life, death, important things, because it still makes mistakes. Now, that's going to change in the next couple, 2, 3 years, I'm sure. But today, when I'm telling folks, like, should people be worried about AI taking out their jobs? Well, certain jobs, they should. Absolutely. Other jobs, no way. It's going to enhance you. So the way I like to look at AI today, Rocky, is I talk to my CEOs like, listen, you're not using it at all. And your competitors are. At some point, you're going to feel this. And I don't want you to feel it when it's too late and you're already under leveraged and they're on phase 2 of this rollout. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use AI bots like the one in Go Expand. It's not outside, hey, figure out what my rocks are next quarter. That's chat. You can use it for that. Although, like you said, it's a thought partner. Don't let it take the wheel and drive or you're going to hit a tree at speed. Like it's not going to be good. But if we're going to put our playbooks, 1-pagers, 2-pagers, just go fast things of how we operate, and we put those in the brain instead of sending an email or calling a team member, just hit the playbook bot. Ask Go Expand, hey, what's the process for this? 10 seconds later, poof, there it is. And the neat thing about that is the company ever updates that process. You just pull the other one out, put the new one in. The old answer isn't even available a second later. So it's a tremendous way. So think about this. AI should be adding 20 IQ points to each of your teammates. That's it. So if you got people walking around at, 110, hey, we got some near Mensa level geniuses now. And if you got some folks in the 120s, 130s, like they're able to do way more complex things and the amount of things they're able to do. So the volume goes up, right? And you still have the person at the switch that's got the human brain, the discernment, and the relationship building, which you cannot have AI do.
And I think that's where the issues are creeping up. You get some of these younger kids, and it's not against anyone who's young, but they kind of grew up in school with AI and now they've forgotten how to think. They just take the answer as it comes, and that's not going to cut it. You've really got to use it and challenge it and know. Like just the other day, I used Claude to build an Excel sheet for me. First version, lots of mistakes. So we had to have conversations. Second version, more mistakes, more conversation. Finally, the third version, pretty good, but I had to go in and fill things, change things, fix things. What it did for me, though, was make a nicer sheet than I would have. So it looked nicer. It did it faster than I would have had I done it alone. But it still requires a whole lot of conversation and a whole lot of double checking and all of that. And if the person who's doing it doesn't know how to do that, that's a problem. Or if they can't discern or if they get lazy, there's the problem. And just in simplest terms, we talk about how people can't even give change at the cash register, even though the cash register tells you what it is. It's that same concept with AI. You still have to know how to do the work. They go together. You can't replace one, I think, with the other.
Yeah, I mean, look at GPS. If the satellites fell out of the sky, people couldn't find anything. I used to have a King's book. And then before that, a Rand McAlley. I remember going on road trips and the full on, all right, looks like you had to follow the signs. You missed a sign. You could add a day to your trip. Google's not, hey, take the next exit and do a U-turn,
Yeah, but how many people followed the GPS off an abandoned bridge and into the canyon because they didn't bother to look out the front of the window?
No, it's a problem. And I would say my directional skills, right, were forged in a time where he had to do it. I used to hit the odometer reset. When the internet happened, it was MapQuest, and it would give you like 0.7 miles, turn left on Oak Ridge Trail. So you turn the last one and I'd hit the odometer and it'd go on 0.7 and they're like, oh, that's supposed to be my turn. So like the tools make you less dependent on cardinal directions and more on the tool. But I've had recently GPS have a mistake and I just kind of laugh going like, I know that's not right. At the same time, Google's like, hey, take this really weird exit. And you're like, this can't be right. And then you ignore it. And then you crest the hill and you see 400 cars stuck on the freeway. And if I just taken Podunk County, whatever, I would have saved an hour. So it goes both ways, all right? Dependence, but also, acceleration.
But so to me, that's discernment. When Google tells me to get off the highway, I'm like, wait a minute, why? And I go to my map and I look ahead because it'll tell me, oh, it's, solid red up ahead. You're going to get stuck. I'm like, okay, thanks for the warning. I'm going to take your thing. But if it takes me that way and I don't challenge it, it's like, wait a second. And I'll be honest, the other day I put something in and it was, there were just issues. And I was on the phone and I ended up where it told me, and it took me very far from where I was supposed to be. And I'm like, yeah, technically you were right, but this isn't where I need to be. You took me way out of the way, but I wasn't paying attention that day. And that was my fault. So yeah, you have to use it appropriately. What are some of the biggest issues you see with small business owners?
Well, I think just not upgrading the thinking. Back to your comment, these kids would want to use AI for the whole thing. And then some companies let them. So I think we're in the experimental phase. So I think like the big mistakes that happen now is not curating your team like super intentionally. And maybe the labor market of past was a reason for that. But I find like I get brought in like, hey, I got a whole, they're not accountable. Well, like I'll always ask like, okay, well, how's your recruiting? It's kind of an afterthought. Like, what percentage of sales do you spend on human capital? As little as possible, right? I'm joking, but I go through a long list of questions that I've learned in the years. And really, I don't know, like 70, 80% of the time I come to the conclusion, well, it sounds to me like because you don't have access to great people, you are trying to make do with less than great people. And the reason why you're frustrated is they just don't have the horsepower to do the work. So you're failing and you're not doing anything about it. So hanging on to the wrong people for too long is the number one mistake in business. I mean, even world-class companies, I'll find some of the wrong people in the wrong seats in the wild pretty consistently. So I think like the big thing, and the world for whatever reason has taught people to be overly inclusive. A culture should be exclusive. It should be inclusive to the right people who are weird like you are, value what you value, care about what you care about. But for the people that are counter to what we want to do, keeping those people around, we'll call those the terrorists, not the activists. I find a lot of people actively working against the very organization that supports them. And it doesn't make sense because life's too short to go against the grain constantly. So I think when we have the access, waiting list to work at our company because we've curated a team, accountability happens because people want it to happen. If you can't hold someone accountable, isn't something you do to someone. It is a common byproduct of having aligned people who are healthy and are in it to win it. And the neat thing about an operating system, right, is we have a hell yeah and a hell no circle. The middle circle, the Venn diagram's just hell with flames on it. So like, hell yeah, let's do that. Hell no, let's do that. Let's not do that. Too many people are in the middle circle where they're not 100% either way. They're trying to straddle the line. And there's an old saying in business that the road to business failure is paved with squirrels that couldn't decide. So like indecision and not having the right people are the two there if we want a bonus one.
So what do you do for the smaller businesses that say, I can't afford great help?
You're paying for great help with your not great help. So this is a fallacy. That is not the right way to think about it, although I totally get it. Point being, I coach, we hire people in the 75th percentile, 50% being scale or average, right? So a lot of my clients, we start people off the street at a higher. The neat thing about A players is they can do 2x of a C player, but you almost never pay an A player 2x. You pay them 1.2, 1.4, maybe 1.6x. So I would just challenge everyone's thinking and say there's a profit margin. If you hire a unicorn and a unicorn can fly 100 miles in a day and a jackass or a donkey can walk maybe 10, even if that unicorn costs more, they can go back, chase the rainbow, eat Skittles, do unicorn things, and make the distance and come back and still be majestic. Whereas if you got a bunch of, low IQ, slow, too obstinate, stubborn people who can only go so fast, you might need 10 of them instead of one unicorn. So like my point is, you're paying for it. Everyone's like, well, I can't afford this. I'm like, okay, describe how this is. What's your turnover? 72%. I'm like, okay. Some people would say the cost of turnover is anywhere low end, 2 or 3 times the salary. High end, I've heard as much as, 10, 20%. So let's even use 5x. If it's a $100,000 position and that person is not the right person in the right seat, the business is losing about $500,000 worth of opportunity, profit, whatever it is, by not having a solid operator growing roots and tribal knowledge. And we're constantly turning over. So if it takes 90 days to not be the new guy or the new girl, and we're turning people over every 60 days, we don't have any experienced operators because we have a culture where if a unicorn was to show up to a burrow pen, excuse me, I'm a unicorn, I don't belong here. Whatever, stall 5 is yours. Like they're going to cut through the fence. They're going to fly over the fence. They're going to be gone. So there is budget for all of these grand ideas. If you see the big picture and understand and can actually numerate the high turnover or the symptom that's presenting itself, it's extremely expensive to not have a stable, long-lasting employee that your customers form a bond with. Let me give you an example. I bank with a really big bank. They've been around since the 1800s. There might be a wagon involved with their logo. They're huge. But your personal banker, like I could get, you got a new personal banker emails every month or three. So it's like really hard to get a relationship with a banker because the turnover in that space is really high. Whereas if you go to a small bank, a boutique bank, or same thing with wealth management or insurance, or insert your CPA or whoever. And I'm not saying the big companies can't get it done, right? They're big for a reason. What I'm saying is the turnover is a little higher than I would like it to be. So I've stopped responding to meet your new banker emails because I feel like the effort of trying to build a relationship with someone who's, whether they're getting promoted internally or they're moving on or whatever, it's just not the same thing where you know what I mean? My insurance guy has been my insurance guy for 20 years. I like working with privately held entrepreneurial businesses because they, tend to understand the value of a longstanding relationship a little bit better than, huge, monolithic bajillion-dollar companies who, have 40,000 employees. It's much harder to do it there.
I agree with everything you said. The only thing that I would challenge is I don't think an A player brings value at 2 times a C player. I think an A player might bring 5 or 10 times the value of a C player.
Oh, yeah. I might have been low on that. And in many cases, it can be higher, but I'm just saying at a minimum, it's 2x.
At a minimum, I agree with you. And one of the things that I have found is, especially in retail, if you don't pay well to that person in your business, you're going to lose customers and you'll never know why, because your low level employees presented a very bad face that I don't need to do business with you anymore. And I think in today's world, that's happening faster and faster. So you have to have the right people. You got to hold it really comes down to the accountability, the systems, hiring the right, everything you talked about is working on your business instead of in your business and doing that stuff. And yet so many small business owners really fight against this. And I don't know what to say.
Yeah, well, the cost to go out and find the right person is a fraction of hanging on to the wrong people. But until people get that through their skulls, they'll continue to behave that. So if anyone's listening today, like this is a pretty common issue, it's okay. You're probably doing it to some degree, but be critical of yourself. And do we have the systems in place? Do we have the comp, the benefits? What about the vibe? Because even if you pay well, but you don't treat people with respect and dignity, courtesy, you know what I'm saying? Like it's culture, cult, root word. The highest form of culture is a cult. So like if there are organizations that are all willing to drink, green Kool-Aid that's poisonous, like, obviously there's a bunch of mental health in that. There's some wrong things happening, but there's some folks that know how to build the team right there versus, I can't find good people. Or, yeah, our industry. Well, interestingly enough, if you find any industry, I can show you a top performing person in that space and bottom performing people in that space, same space. Some industries, the cost of labor and the sales price to the street, right? There's some compression there, and you can only do what you can do. But I think if you bill yourself as a elevated experience, you can be good, you can be fast, or you can be cheap, Rocky, but you can't be all three. So if you could be two of those things, that's the old saying, and I still think it pretty much runs true. Which one of the three are you willing to sacrifice? Well, I can't do good, right? And I guess I don't need it fast. So, you know what I mean? We'll do it good and we'll do it cheap, but we can't do it good, fast, and cheap. And any one of those three are hot swappable. And for the most part, that papers in reality. But As a business owner, you just assume your clients are looking for all three. And of course, wouldn't that be great? But I think humans are reasonable enough to say, if you're selling this house, this is not your primary, this is an income property. So you're not emotionally attached to it. Like commercial construction. You see my commercial construction partners, the clients are a lot less emotional. It's all about, well, you didn't get the change order, so we're not going to pay it. Like it's a legal game. It's litigious, the construction space, in a big way, because it's all about documentation and sign this and sign that. In a business to consumer standpoint, like that corner isn't like perfectly mitered. Like, yeah, I'm going to look at that every day. I'm not going to feel good about our time together. Like, all right, I'll redo the trim. Like, because at the end of the day, what do you want somebody a year later? Oh, who did your windows? Oh, so-and-so. But look at the joinery there. I wouldn't call them. Like, you might lose 3 or 4 more future jobs by saying, they're good enough for government work versus sending somebody back out there and redoing the trim.
No, I agree with that. And I think what I find is a lot of small business owners really struggle on the pricing side. And the reality is racing to the bottom is never going to be something you want to win, right? So don't just compete on price, because it's not a fun way to do business. That's all. I'd rather you figure out how to do it better, and it's a much better way to go. If people would like to learn more about you, how you work, and maybe hire a vet, how do they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Easy to find there. They can find me at eosworldwide.com/Chris Hallberg. They can email me at chris@goexpand.com or chris@bizsgt.com. Those are the places folks can find me.
Awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Rocky. Great to meet you.
The biggest mistake most business owners make isn't about marketing or sales. It's about people. You're either paying for great talent up front, or you're paying for mediocre talent 10 times over through turnover, lost opportunity, lost clients. Discipline beats opportunity every single time. A no person in the right seat, your COO or your CFO like me, is what protects your profit and keeps your margins healthy. And third, systems and after-action reviews aren't just military concepts. They're the difference between companies that get better every day and companies that repeat the same mistakes over and over. Chris and I have spent years implementing these exact principles with our clients, and they work. Are you ready to do this in your business? Do you want help and someone who's done it? Reach out to Chris, reach out to me. Let's help you make more money. That is what it's all about. Thanks for listening to The Profit Answer Man, where we believe more revenue doesn't mean more profit. And the bottom line is what really matters. If you're ready to stop living check to check, take control of your cash flow, and finally get paid what you're worth, we should talk. We work with 7- and 8-figure businesses and well-funded startups. If you're a smaller business, check out the Profit Blueprint program. It's a do-it-yourself solution that also can come with my direct guidance in the same level we give our one-on-one clients. When you're ready for results, book a discovery call. There's a link in the show notes or at profitcomesfirst.com. You'll be speaking and working directly with me. In the meantime, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint at profitcomesfirst.com. It's the next step to turning your business into a consistent cash flow generating machine. If you'd like to dig more into leading yourself, your company, and building the ultimate life, listen to my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we cover these topics in great depth. There's a link in the show notes. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.